Hi friends, this is Jaik. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to talk about option Greeks. Many people ask me this question: how can I become a stock market millionaire? And my advice to them is start with 2 million, especially if you're trading in options. Greeks are an integral part of option trading, and it is very important that you know what each of those Greek means. As I mentioned in the last video, what you see on the screen, JP Morgan and Microsoft, these are few covered calls that I sold last week. So I'll be explaining Greeks using the Microsoft $185 covered call. So to see the Greeks, you can either go to the option chain and view the Greeks there, or you can go to an option that you already have. And in Robinhood, you can see them right at the bottom of the screen. So let's look at the classic explanation of a delta. Delta represents, it measures impact of a change in the price of the underlying. So the key word there is underlying. So the underlying stock is Microsoft at $187.19. So, and the price of this option is $3.45. Delta measures the change in option price when the underlying asset moves up by $1. Microsoft is sitting at $187.19 and the price of this option is $3.45. Delta will help you measure the price of this option when the Microsoft moves up by $1 to $188.19. The delta is 66 cents. To find the price of this option when Microsoft is at $188.19, all you have to do is add that 66 cents to this $3.45. So let's do the actual math for this option. The price of Microsoft is at $187.19. The price of the option is $3.45 and the delta is 66 cents. So how do I find the price of option when the underlying asset, which is Microsoft, is at $188.19? So all we have to do is take the current price of the option, which is $3.45, add it to the delta, and you get price of the option when Microsoft is at $188.19. And this always moves up in increments of $1. And it doesn't really matter whether it's we are talking about Google, where the price of the option is at $1,400. Doesn't really matter. It is always talking about increments of $1. But is this the whole story? No, there is more to it. So that is a good segue to talk about gamma. Gamma gives us the rate of change in delta. So the price of Microsoft is at $187.19. The price of the option is sitting at $3.45. Delta is 66 cents and gamma is 6 cents, 0.0667. We already spoke about the future price of that option when Microsoft moves up by $1. That means it goes to $188.19. But the stock can go up by $2, right? It goes up in increments of $1. So how do we calculate that? So that's where gamma comes in handy, because it measures the velocity or the change in delta. We can use the same equation, add the current price of the option, plus for the first dollar increase, you add the delta value. So that's $3.45 plus 66 cents. Now you need to add the delta again for the next dollar increase, right? It's increasing from 88 to 89, 188 to 189 now. So you add another 66 cents. Onto that, you add gamma as well. Why? Because when we move from $1 to $1, the actual underlying price of the delta changes. So you have to account for that. So why didn't we add this gamma in the first dollar increase? That's just because that gamma is already inbuilt in the delta. So when we did the initial $3.45 plus 66 cents, the gamma was already inbuilt in it. Now to find the price of the additional dollar, you need to add the gamma, and then you keep on repeating it. So if you want to find the future price of that option when Microsoft goes to $190.19, take the first price plus For the first dollar increase, add the delta. Then for the second dollar increase, add the delta plus the gamma. And then for the third dollar increase, add the delta again and the gamma. One thing you have to remember is this delta value is never a constant number. It keeps on changing. What it gives is a general ballpark figure of how things change. That's what it's going to give you. Because there are other things which affects delta, like volatility, theta. So all those things will affect your delta. So here we are taking a hypothetical scenario where everything else is constant. So now let's move on to theta. So theta is always represented by a negative number. Why? Because theta represents time decay. As you all know, option is a depreciating asset. Option in its very simplest form is a contract, and contract is time bound. So as each day passes, the value of that contract decreases because now you have less day to execute that contract. So theta represents the decrease in cents for each day that passes by. Here you'll see it's minus 0.14 or minus 14 cents. Which means that given everything else as constant, let's assume that nothing else changes. We move from one day to the next. Let's say it's Monday now and we move to Tuesday. So the price of this option will move from $3.45 minus theta 0.14. So theta is an important concept to get because in many option strategies, this is how you make money. Because market can remain constant and nothing moves, but every day you gain value in theta. Especially if you sell covered calls, this is how you make money. Theta is exponential in nature. That means as the contract or the option is getting closer to expiration, the theta decay will increase exponentially. So let's go back to our previous example. Theta is 0.1434. Or previously mentioned in cents. It is not in cents, it's the dollar amount. So especially for a higher stock value, take case in point Google, which is approximately $1,400. So the theta decay would for Google options would be in dollars. Sometimes it can be at $2 a day. Let's get back to your example. So I'm using the same examples that I mentioned before. The price of the underlying asset, Microsoft, is sitting now at $189.19. And we already calculated the value for the option at $4.83. And now it's the following day because theta decay happens for each trading day. $4.83 from above minus the theta decay will give us $4.69. If the Microsoft moved to $189.19 in a day and it ends the day at $4.83, that option ends the day at $4.83, even if nothing else changes, next day it will only be worth $4.69. Here it is easy to understand why theta is a friend for option sellers and it's an enemy for option buyers, right? Because their option, for someone who bought this option, nothing changed. The option was $4.83 and come next day it is only worth $4.69. And for the option seller, at some point might have to buy it back. It was sitting at $4.83 and next day nothing changed, but now he can buy it for 14 less cents for $4.69. Now let's talk about Vega. So we spoke about delta, gamma, theta, and fourth is Vega. Vega represents the change in option price for a percent change in the implied volatility. So the implied volatility is 21.12. That will change. Implied volatility changes with any new news that is applicable to the stock. Let's say Satya Nadella resigns, so that will increase the implied volatility. Or you hear that Microsoft earned a new contract, or there is a war, there is a famine. So anything that adds chaos to the market will increase the implied volatility. As you know, the current situation has made the implied volatility go through the roof for many stocks. As it stands right now, 21.12 is not too high. During normal times, implied volatility goes through the roof during earnings season. So many people trade sell options during that time, because given everything else as constant, when the implied volatility changes, they can get way more money for their calls, short calls. So look at this example. The implied volatility is 21.12 now, and the Vega is 0.09. Let's assume it's 10 cents. When the implied volatility, let's say it increases 10%, that is, it becomes 31.12%. Everything else constant, the Vega will go up by 10 times. That means something which was 10 times, 9 cents here, when the volatility increases by 10%, you can multiply this value by 10, and the price of this option, for no other reason, will go up by $1. Using the same example that we used before, it's another day, and there's a flash news. Microsoft is planning to buy Tesla. Implied volatility went through the roof. It was 20% yesterday, and now it's 30%, or 10 points up. And we already know that for each point up, the implied volatility, the Vega represented 9 cents. So now we can calculate the price of the option on the following day after this news. So from before, the price is $4.69 plus 0.09 cents for each point increase for Vega, times 10 because it went up 10%. So then the new option price is $5.59. So friends, this can make bank. People have been made millionaires overnight because of implied volatility. Especially if you have a long option, when you sell on a day when the implied volatility is high. So going to the previous use case that I mentioned just before earnings calls, the implied volatility will be high. Even if the price of this underlying stock doesn't change, and even if you don't get any theta decay, you'll be able to sell your option for a much call option for a much higher price because of the implied volatility. And in the subsequent days, if the implied volatility comes down, the price of that option will come down as well. And for someone who wrote an option or who sold a short option, short is always a term for selling something. So someone who's sold a short call option, he can buy it back for much cheaper when the implied volatility is lower. So let's recap our discussion so far. So far we discussed 4 Greeks: delta, gamma, theta, and Vega. So we started with delta. So delta represents the change in option price when the underlying asset, in this case Microsoft, moves up by $1. So we started with $3.45 for the option. We mentioned that when Microsoft goes to $188 to get the new option price, all you have to do is add the delta to the price of the option. Then we discussed gamma. Gamma measures the velocity of the delta. That means it measures the change in delta. The example we used was Microsoft went up by not just $1, $2. So since gamma measures the velocity, all we had to do to find the new price of the option was to add the original option price with delta. So that gave us the price when the option was at $188.19, and for the next dollar increase, you added the gamma again and also the delta. So you get $4.83. Next, we spoke about theta decay. That means theta represents the decrease in the option price per day. So as each day goes by, the value of that option will decrease by this much amount. So from previous example, we got $4.83. It's next day, so you subtract the theta and you got $4.69. And now newsflash, the following day, Microsoft is planning to buy Tesla. Implied volatility went through the roof. Vega represents the change in option price for a point or a percentage change in the implied volatility. Because of the flash news, implied volatility went from 20% to 30%, or 10 points up. So to calculate the final price of that option after all this action, we go from the previous $4.69, add that to 10 times, 9 cents. 9 cents represent the change in option price for each point times 10, because it went up by 10 points, and you get $5.59. So far we discussed delta, gamma, theta and vega, and not rho. Why? Because rho is the small brother of all these other Greeks, and it doesn't really impact the option price. Rho represents the change in option price based on the change in interest rate. So as you all know, interest rate doesn't really change week over week or month over month. Well, there's a point that last year interest rate did change month over month due to the special circumstances, but normally the interest rate doesn't really change, and sometimes it remains same for years at a time. As you see here, it only represents 0.02 cents, and the interest rate, I think it's sitting at like 0.15% now. So this value is not really going to change much. Before we conclude, please remember one thing: rho, vega, theta, gamma, delta, everything or comes close to zero or negligible as the option reaches its expiration date. At the end, when the option is close to its expiration date and time on that last Friday, the only thing which matters is intrinsic value. That means is the option in the money. So that's the only thing which matters on the last day or the last hour of an option's life. All these things becomes negligible on that last day. And that's all I had, my friends. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. Please stay safe and stay awesome. Bye.